Welcome to the Rise to Shine podcast with Noelle Custis, where we ignite the spark to discover your favorite self. It is time to get real, ladies. Hey there, friends. Welcome back to another episode of the Rise to Shine podcast. I'm your host, Noelle Custis. Today, I am thrilled to introduce you to a guest who truly lights up any space. I met Kristi during a virtual networking call and we instantly clicked. We both share this really deep passion for empowering others and guiding people. And you're going to learn exactly what it is that she does with that. So I'm super excited. We both happen to be former teachers. So I knew instantly that she would be a perfect fit for the show. So Kristi, as I mentioned, is a former teacher turned teen life coach, and her journey is as inspiring as it is impactful. She's on a mission to equip teens with the life skills and confidence they need to thrive, teaching them the very lessons she wishes she'd known at their age. Kristi believes true confidence comes from the actions we take, and she models this beautifully in her own life as a mom to her two amazing kids, Hendrix and Beatrix, correct?
Yes.
All right. I love it. I love it. She's here to share her story, her insights, and the powerful ways she's helping teens and maybe even for us moms. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm so excited to really jump into this conversation. And I just want to welcome you, Kristi. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I can't even tell you, I've been looking forward to this conversation with you. And I just know that it's going to be impactful, as have been so many things that have come along my journey in the last little while. So I'm really excited for today's conversation.
I love it. I am feeling the same. And I know that even just from the time we met to the time we booked this, there's all of these things in life that have been happening in business and, so I just know that we're going to have a great conversation. And I really just wanted to open it up today because, I just feel like your journey is so inspiring. I love, by the way, following you on Instagram. You're just brilliant in so many ways, but I also love getting a sneak peek into your personal life and some of the accomplishments you have made recently. So first of all, could you just start? I just would love for you to start by sharing how you transitioned from being a teacher to a life coach for teens and what sparked that shift for you.
Yes, I love telling this story so much. And it's because I feel like every time I get to tell it, I get to reflect on different parts and pieces of it. Because up until now, like truly this point in my life, I feel like I'm finally trying to be more present day to day and really noticing all of the tiny little breadcrumbs that come along our journey. So I have to take you back to 2020 in order to give you a snippet of the story as short and sweet as I possibly can. But I became a mom in 2020. So that is when I had my son Hendrix. And that was what catapulted me into this new identity. And a lot of really big shifts started happening at that point for me in my life. I felt like I wasn't ever really whole. I didn't ever feel worthy. I didn't ever feel enough. And when I started to really reflect on that, I realized that a lot of that was stemming and rooted in my teen years. And so to bring you back forward, motherhood is what really cracked me. All of those parts and pieces just slowly started to fall away. And I found myself trying to put them back together after I became a mom. And it just wasn't happening because they were parts of me that were never meant to be there to begin with. And this is obviously a 4-year journey of healing and learning who I really truly was and what I truly valued and desired for myself in my life. I had my daughter Beatrix in 2022, and this is when I hired my coach. So among like the uncomfortable challenges of becoming a mom for the first time, I found myself also trying to overcome my addiction to alcohol as well during this whole process. And so this is what I'm talking about when I say like a healing journey. Like there were just so many parts and pieces when I really look at the whole of it, looking back. And to me, it's just incredible how much you can really change in your life, how much you are capable of co-creating for yourself if you decide to lean into those desires. And so that's what I did. When I hired my coach, She really helped me to peel back the layers of what it was that was holding me back in my life from what I really truly wanted. And it's interesting. I know that you'll understand this, but I never could have imagined that a podcast would be something that I would have started for myself. And so that is something that I did in order to heal that fear of really using my voice. When I started to do that through the pandemic, I was being reached out to by other parents whose teens were struggling to finish their credits in order to graduate. And so I took it upon myself to help them with that. And in the meantime, I was noticing that I was also teaching them all of these essential life skills and like things to do with emotional intelligence that I was also learning and that had been so impactful for me. And that had really changed the trajectory of my life. And so just as a small example, because you pointed out some of the personal achievements, 4 years ago, I also started running. And that was something I did for myself because I just had this deep desire to feel free in my life and just to know freedom and ease and peace. And that's what running really did for me. But it started with like a few hundred meters, like around a park close to my house. And in 4 years, that has turned into me running my first full marathon, which was just a week ago. So yeah, it's just to speak to, you know, what is actually capable, what you are actually capable of and the potential that you have, because I can tell you that the me 4 years ago would have never, ever believed that that would have been possible for me. And so what I do now is I teach teens and I lead them back home to this language of self-love, confidence, and empowerment that I feel is very much overlooked in this traditional school system, but it needs to be like the foundation of everything, because I know since I've connected all of those parts and pieces together back for myself, I have been thriving. I feel fulfilled. I feel fully alive. And I am just grateful each and every day. Like, I feel like the Rise to Shine podcast, like that is, I love that title for this podcast because that's what it feels like to me. Now it's like I rise every morning and I'm so grateful for the 24 hours that I have in my day. And I want to shine my light so that others can feel that exact same way too.
Oh, I love that. I literally have chills. Like I'm sitting here listening to you and I just got chills because again, I knew that from the moment we met, we were so aligned in the way that we thought. And, you know, it's interesting how both of our stories, and I don't even know if you know this, but even for me, you know, transitioning from an educator teacher in the classroom to what I do now, all came about exactly at the same time, which is hysterical. But I think that was a huge awakening for a lot of us in a sense. And I also was in a space where I was actually for my first time getting a coach and working with someone outside of just therapy, which is different, because I knew that there were things that as beautiful as my life was at the moment, I had gotten remarried. I have 2 beautiful children. I have a home that I love. But there was something still deep inside of me that I was struggling with and really struggling to figure out, like, why am I still sitting on the patio crying about, you know, going to work? Is it really about work or is it other things? And then to realize that it was really about things that were unresolved. And so that also put me on the fast track of going, okay, wait a minute. I want to help other women. I happen to be in a age bracket where I was approaching 50 and I was just thinking, I want to help women that are struggling with this, because the more I started to talk about it, the more I started to realize that so many other women were in the same position. So love that we kind of even have that same journey as well. We're just happy, you know, we just happen to be, you know, really focusing on 2 different groups of people, but teens have such a huge piece of my heart. And that's why I work with a nonprofit that focuses on that. I loved being a middle school teacher, all of the things. So I love what you're doing. And honestly, I feel like, you know, our teens just have so much now, you know, I mean, it's everything we had, but then on top of that, we're talking about all of the things that they're dealing with social media. It's just, you know, some unique pressures that I don't feel like are, you know, were the exact same as when we were there. So I would love to have you share, because you mentioned confidence, and that's one word that I just feel like it seems to be really central to your work. And you had said, I read something, or I had heard something that you put, that true confidence lies in the actions we take. And I would love for you to elaborate on what that means and how you instill that belief in your clients.
I love this question too. This is so much fun. So 4 years ago, I heard a whisper. It was essentially, be brave, trust yourself, take action. And this is going back to when I started my podcast. And I was like, that's interesting. And it's just this whisper that I have been trusting. And it's something that I have been saying to myself for the last 4 years. So when I say that the confidence lies in the actions you take, it's because on my own personal journey and through the coaching that I do with my clients, what I have noticed is that in order to take action, you really need to first be brave enough to sit with yourself, connect with yourself, and bring about that awareness of what those desires and those things actually are that you would want for yourself. Mm-hmm. So like, I will lead my clients through writing like a wouldn't it be cool list. And it's incredible to me sometimes, like the things that they will actually come up with. But then when you really go ahead and tie it back to the feeling, it's really that feeling that they are ultimately desiring to feel. And for a lot of them right now, that looks like peace. It looks like freedom, a lot of the same things that I was also craving. And so before you take the action, the second step is to trust yourself. And that is what I have noticed has been the main ingredient, the key in creating confidence, especially for myself and for them. Because when you lean in to trusting yourself, you're actually allowing the way that you're feeling about taking this uncomfortable action and challenging yourself in a different way. You're allowing yourself to feel what's coming up for you in that moment. And I feel like this is maybe a piece and part that people overlook, or that I especially used to overlook in my life. Like, I would take action on things, but I wasn't leaning into how they were actually making me feel and how I wanted to feel in the beginning. So it's almost like reverse engineering. And so this is where becoming a teacher has really, really helped me, because I'm able to see like the end result and to bring them back to how you need to, co-create with that in order to get there. And so what I like to teach them when I say like taking action is really about, before we take the action, we need to lean in to how we are feeling. And no matter what we are hearing, the thoughts, it's really that awareness piece of helping them to connect with their body, connect with their thoughts, to bring themselves to a space and a place where they actually feel safe in order to take the action. And when you do this consistently, that's what builds that muscle. And that's what in turn will build your confidence, because it's not like you're becoming confident about the action you took. Like, it wasn't the full marathon that made me feel confident. It was every single morning that I had to lean into the discomfort of getting up and training, or lean into, the food that I wanted to make sure that I was consuming, or the extra water that I needed to drink. Like, it was all of those uncomfortable moments and leaning into those and listening to those thoughts and those fears that were coming up pre-race. And so I would say to that, just leaning in and really listening to those whispers for yourself is a really, really important part of taking action to build confidence.
I love that, because it's so, all of this obviously is so prevalent to all of us. It really, yes, I know that you're working with teens and you're instilling this in them, which is, oh my goodness, so needed and such a gift. And we're going to, definitely dig in deeper about that. But I'm really curious, just because, my own mind is coming from, not only did I teach middle school and worked with teens and continue to work with teens, but I also had a teenage daughter who's now 22. I have a teenage son who's 15. So how do you approach building trust with these teens that you're working with, especially those that might initially be reluctant or just unsure about coaching? What is it that you're doing?
So I think what allows them to have such a connection, or a deeper connection with me, is just the way that I show up energetically. And this is what I teach them to do through my program as well. So this really becomes a practice on my end. So there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, but in terms of myself, like, I am making sure that I practice everything that I am teaching and preaching, so that I can show up and also model to them like what it looks like to do this type of work on a day-to-day basis consistently for yourself. It's really about just helping them to kind of step outside of themselves. So when I speak of awareness, like it's a judgment-free zone. We are simply analyzing, auditing, just, focusing on just looking at the bigger picture through a lens of love. That way we can actually start to, implement some habits and change out some things that maybe are no longer serving. That way we can start to focus on, my gosh, even if you added in think 3 new 10-minute habits for an entire week, that would already start to put you on a trajectory towards feeling more of the ways that you want to feel, right? And that in itself is so impactful. And then when you just start habit stacking those habits on top of one another and paying more attention to that and focusing on that, it will create massive shifts in your life, for sure. So
yeah. Gosh, also good because, it's funny. Again, I just had this conversation. My daughter, who is 22, getting a major in psychology, and go figure. But so interesting is that, when they're teens, they're going through just so many changes. They're just still trying to figure out themselves, the world around them, and experiencing life and whatever, and then of course, in addition, whatever their home life is like, and all, all of the things. Yeah. And one of the things that I loved, and this is what I love about what you just said, because you are building this trust by the actions that you're taking, and that you are, you're kind of leading the room in that sense. And my daughter just mentioned to me that she said, because my husband is her stepdad, and they have a really close relationship now, but it was tricky because they met when she was 12. So that's always a fun age. And, so through her teenage years, there was lots of these ups and downs, and now they are super close. And she said, Mom, it's because when I finally had moved out and I wasn't as close to it and life experience and growing up, she goes, I could actually see you guys as humans and not just my parents. And I watched what you did, and I think about it now, and I'm so much more appreciative of that because I can be. And she said, because now I can see it. I'm not as close to it. I'm away from it now. She goes, there's moments that I'm like, can I just call my parents? I don't want to do this adulting right now, different instances like that. But another thing that she had mentioned in that conversation that struck such a chord with me, and really is now becoming a huge part of my why, is she had said, Mom, she goes, you don't think we're watching adults, or you don't think we're watching and we just don't care. And she goes, but we are watching. And she goes, and to see our parents and to see people that we love, just continuing to persevere, continuing to show up, it was just such a beautiful conversation because I did not even realize, she had never really voiced what an impact that had on her. Yeah. And let me tell you, I would have loved her having a coach at that time during those teen years, because I do think, as parents, we are, we're trying, and many of us are trying to get these kids to open up. But there still is this wall, and I just feel like she would have been one of those kids that would have benefited from a coach, just building that trust with somebody else. She did have a therapist that, thank you, Lord, because let me tell you, it was definitely needed at the time. But like I said, there's a difference between that, a coach and someone who's teaching and it's almost like having a mentor as well. So I would love, again, I'm just I'm reflecting on all of these things you do. And this is why I just love it, because I'm just going, gosh, this is so good. And
well, it's true. It speaks though to, you're right. It speaks to the value of community. And this is what I was thinking while you were speaking, is just being a part of that coaching community that I spoke of in the beginning. That is what also kind of lit that fire inside of me, was being surrounded by all of these other incredible women who like also had all of these like soul desires, and they were going after them. So you just feel like you're all part of this group that are just like, you want to keep climbing together and challenging yourself. I'm still a part of that community. I don't think I'll ever be able to leave. And I don't think I'll ever be able to stop challenging myself, because that's another part of this. And I feel like the clients who have been with me for a while are starting to realize that it's either you choose the uncomfortable of what, you know, is happening in your life and you just kind of sit with that, or you can choose to move in the direction of discomfort. But ultimately, some of these uncomfortable choices and challenges that you will face along the way are going to make you become like that person that you actually truly want to be, and feeling the absolute best that you can. Like there's just such an incredible difference when you choose to co-create with the energy that you're actually wanting to lean into versus what you do not want.
I love that. And, I mean, clearly, obviously working with teens has definitely, you talked about the self-trust and the bravery. It sounds to me like these teens have also impacted your own sense of self-trust and bravery. But I'd love to know, are there lessons that they've taught you along the way?
I don't even know what the word is that I'm looking for right now. I get emotional sometimes when I think about the work that I do, honestly. Like when I was thinking about coming on this podcast yesterday and today on my walk, like I had tears, because I was just like, oh my gosh, I still can't believe 4 years ago where I was. Right. And then to think that this is the work that I get to do today, like leading teens back home to like a deep sense of self-love and worthiness. Like at the end of the day, that's really truly what it's all about. They don't come to me, like you said about your daughter, like they don't come to me putting on their wouldn't it be cool list. Like, wouldn't it be cool if I could get the next new Xbox? I don't know what's cool right now. I'm just throwing things out there. A new bicycle, a new bedroom, something. Right. Like they come to me and they write things down like, wouldn't it be cool if I could stop caring what other people think about me? Wouldn't it be cool if I could actually start committing to the things that I want to do for myself in order to feel better? Like, wouldn't it be cool if I actually had like good friendships where people were treating me the way I wanted to be treated? Like, these are the things that they are desiring. And it all comes back to a feeling and just allowing them that space to be able to explore that. And I think that that's why, although this work can be challenging as well, and entrepreneurship has not been easy, but it's about the actual, like it's about the why, and knowing that each and every time I am able to guide them back to that space and that place where they actually are able to thrive. That is the reason that I do this work.
You can just feel that so much. And gosh, I know it is emotional. It's emotional work. And, it's funny because I was going to say, what keeps you motivated on these tough days? But clearly that is exactly what this is. And I don't think, and this is where I want moms, women, just society in general, and I'd love for you to piggyback on this if, you feel like it, but as I work with teens and when I was in the schools and working with this nonprofit, I have such hope for our kids. I hear so much going, oh my gosh, this generation coming up, it's, like all the negatives. And are there challenges? Yes, absolutely. But when you really get to the heart of the matter of these kids, they, just like you said, it's not about, they're just trying to be overcomers themselves and trying to figure it out. It's not about, being selfish and just wanting more. I mean, there's so much more to them when we take the time to really get to know them and listen to them. And that's what gives me hope. But I would love for you to, expand on any of that. If you're willing to just, share what you have seen while you're working with these teens. I know you mentioned those, but like even, maybe some of the transformations that you have experienced.
Yeah, you gave me some of those words back that I couldn't find earlier. Creative, I would say for sure. And they are so intelligent. Like some of them, I'm just like wise beyond their years. It's just they haven't figured out how to and where to direct that energy yet, right? And I think super important as well to put them in containers of space, like where the conversation is also different. And this is what I speak of when I speak of like the language of self-love, confidence, and empowerment looks a lot different than some of those conversations that we hear around us. So it's just surrounding them with that love and light more often. And that's how you get them to see new perspectives. With my clients, it's been incredible. I have some of those episodes, actually some client journeys that are on my podcast.
Good. Okay.
Confident Teen. But yeah, mainly I would say a lot of the teens that come to me, the theme that I'm hearing a lot is just anxiety. Anxiety is something that they are struggling with. And so when we work together, it's for them, I feel really powerful for them to understand like the E in emotion means energy. So it's energy and motion. So I'm teaching them about their energetic body, and I'm teaching them about their mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual or self energy, if that resonates more. And we're just exploring all of that and how they can fill each of those buckets of their lives in order to feel better, but also to like create this resilience within themselves that they also know how to navigate and move through a challenge when it comes, because that's just what life is, right? Like it comes in those waves and in those cycles, and they become more aware of their patterns. And so for a lot of them, like that anxiety has diminished significantly. They do feel more confident for sure in that connection with themselves. And just being able to like listen to what it is that they actually want. It's like they know how to lean into that feeling. Now, I talk a lot about intuition just because that is something that is so present for me in my life.
Right.
I also, for a lot of these clients as well, like it depends on if the families are interested, but I am certified in hypnotherapy and Reiki. So I do energy healing for a lot of my families too. So yeah, just like extra tools that I have, but really leading them through like my 4-step process. I have seen just incredible shifts in my clients. And I would say most of those are, yes, they're exceeding and excelling in school and other extracurriculars and things that they have on their plates, but more so it's from a place of parents messaging me and letting me know that like, you know, their daughter was finally able to like take the car to the grocery store and get groceries by herself because that anxiety has been lessened, right? So it's like moments like that and wins that parents are celebrating, and just the fact that they're actually showing up for themselves and doing things for themselves, like cooking again, going for walks, calling friends, things that I feel like maybe they were just disconnected from for a little while there. So it's just about bringing them back home to the things that they love.
I love that because, you know, you're hearing more and more too about not just for adults, but for teens as well. This really big, this was something that was brought up at a retreat that we do for middle schoolers, and talking about loneliness. Even when it appears that these kids have all these friends, there's a sense of loneliness. And I started hearing some of those same conversations that you were just talking about, of like bringing them back to a place of those things that they love, and, you know, finding their people, and not, oh gosh, I know we could be on here for hours, girl. So many things. But one of the things, and, you know, tying that in is that, you know, being that our listeners, you know, there's lots of moms out here and aunts and grandmas and all of the things, but I know you've talked about having and creating this future that, you know, just has tons of possibility for your clients and for your teens. So what are some ways that moms that are listening today can help their teens really believe in a positive future for themselves?
So I believe that in order to start to cultivate like that belief and that possibility that anything is possible for them, it needs to start with them really getting crystal clear on like what those blocks are, or what are those things that are challenging them, in order to actually see and believe that that is true. So what's coming up for me right now is just to talk about like the limiting beliefs that we have, and to actually start paying attention to those. So this is one of, again, it's like the first step that I teach to all of my clients, but it's just that sense of awareness and different practices that we have in order to help us do that. But learning to think about what you think about is so important, because your mind and your thoughts are creating the reality that you're living, right? So you need to, I love doing like mirror work with my clients too, like actually looking at yourself in a mirror and telling yourself the things about yourself that are actually true. Like that you are confident, that you are empowered. I believe everybody is. Like this is no question for me. If somebody does not believe so, well, that's okay. But that's my belief. Like I know it to be true, like to my core. It's the reason why I'm here, to remind people of this fact. And it's deeply rooted within us all. It's just all of this stuff has been piled on top of that. And so if I would say to that parent, like if your teen is struggling, it's just about unpacking that. Like we have to release that energetically. And it needs to start with that connection and that self-awareness. And then, moving through some of those old stories and bringing in what's actually true to them.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So gosh, I'm even thinking about, my son. He's the opposite of my daughter. My daughter was, the one that struggled with the anxiety, definitely, had some challenges and, just socially, but she put on a brave face every day, or, what she thought was a brave face, and just put on that smile. And then she would come home and completely fall apart. Whereas our son is the opposite. He is the go-getter, and sometimes I look at him and I'm even actually going, wow, where did this all come from? And it's just interesting when we have two totally different children that operate completely differently. And I'm like, they were raised in the same house. They, it's like all the same things. What's happening here? But it's very interesting. And they're 7 years apart. So there's some differences in age as far as like watching things and how things unfolded for his sister. So kind of watching her journey, but then also I think surrounding, this is one thing that I've learned as a parent, and even reflecting on my own childhood, is surrounding your kids with a village of humans that absolutely are going to be the ones that you can trust, that are, giving that great advice, modeling some of these things. Because again, they're watching, surrounding them with people. And that's why, again, I just think the work that you're doing, there's not enough of this happening in our world. I think that it is something, I see a little bit of it being embedded in the schools, but it's still tricky there, right? Like there's still, some things that you have to get through the red tape and, all of the things. So I love that people can find someone like you to have as part of their village for these kids. I just think it's brilliant, honestly, because I do feel that these kids are in such need of having an outlet, having people that believe in them. Gosh, that is, another conversation.
And I think one thing that's coming up for me too right now, just because I know I speak this way and I've talked about the 4 years as if it like happened all in like the blink of an eye, but it's been challenging. So I also want to recognize that. Like I know there are so many challenges and there's so many complexities that families are facing these days. And I definitely recognize that every time I show up to do this work. And I also believe, like at the end of the day, though, that everybody is capable of leading the way that they want to, and just making small decisions each and every day that are going to start to change that, like for yourself and for your family, like whether that's like weekly check-ins or just reminding each other, like, hey, like helping somebody to stop in the moment and just helping to like maybe redirect them, or just telling them, reminding them to take that pause and to notice. It could be like, it could look as simple as that. So this is also something that I work on with my clients. Like I never want to feel like, oh my gosh, we got to go see this teacher who then is going to give us this homework. Like, no, the homework is your commitment to your confidence. It's with the actions that you take and leaning into those uncomfortable emotions and those limiting beliefs and thoughts that may come up in the process, but knowing that that's actually not really a part of you. So it's just about recognizing that, acknowledging them, and releasing them with love. That's all this really is. So yeah, I just like to keep it simple and as easy as we possibly can.
I'm so glad that you mentioned that. And I knew, we even said before, we're just going to let the energy flow, and what is supposed to come up is going to come up. And I love that you said that, because I was literally just in a meeting today, and we were talking about a nonprofit organization that's up and coming in our area that is really focusing on teen boys and really helping them to understand themselves and get to their core. Similar to a lot of the things that we've talked about. But the thing that he said that I just loved is he said, it is literally one sentence that you can say to a teenager, and really to anybody, but specifically focusing on these teenagers. It's one thing you can say to them that may not be a big deal to you, but telling them you're proud of them, telling them that you are doing a great job, or really just, something specific to what they're doing, and being able to vocalize that could literally change the trajectory of their future.
Yeah.
And you hear that with adults, like later on in life, going, it was that one person that just believed in me. It was that one person that said this one thing to me. So I love that you also talk about that it can just be simple. And as a society, as women in my audience, like acknowledging that, even when you see a teen in the store, and you notice that they're doing something great, or they're, I don't know, just noticing and understanding that these kids are human too. And we want them to grow up and be productive citizens and be great humans, so I love that is where you keep that core of it too, is just in a very simple space.
Yeah, I feel like it's what works best for them. I also really enjoy simplicity and ease, and you don't need to overcomplicate things. Yeah. And they want to be heard. They want to be seen, heard, and understood. I feel like that's, a given for most people. And I would say, to your point, their biggest fear, from what I've heard in conversation, is the fear of disappointing. And so when you speak of, them feeling proud, like that is another one of the reasons why I do the work that I do, because it's true. If you hold that belief for somebody, like my coach held the belief for me, even like long before I thought I could start a podcast, long before I thought I could start my own business, long before I thought I could run, oh my God, 26.2 miles. I'm tattooing that on myself, by the way. That'll be a tattoo that I will get.
Deserve that.
But yeah, like it's just, so I know even for myself, like I've lived those experiences. It'll be the same thing from them. Emotionally uncomfortable. I had to move through it, and I know that I did. And I know that they're younger, like they have more energy and more life in them, I think. So they're even more capable.
Yeah, totally. Well, I have a couple more things. One is about your work, but then one is just, about stepping into your purpose. But I would love for you to answer for us, if you could give one message to all of the moms out there that are trying to empower their children while managing all of life's challenges, what would that be?
I have to say it. I'm sharing the whisper with you in case you haven't had the time to lean in and listen to yours. So it's be brave, trust yourself, and take action. I feel like that is where our confidence is rooted. Learning to be brave enough to listen to what it is you want, trusting that you are capable of, moving through this journey, as we all are, and just taking action that feels like it's in alignment. And even if the action wasn't the right, move to make, like, I don't believe that there's any wrong choices you could make. You're just going to learn from the experience. So yeah, it's just about embracing ease.
Yeah.
How can this be easy today? This is literally what I asked myself each and every day. And also while I was running that marathon, I kept asking myself, how can this be easy? How can I ease my thoughts around what's happening right now? How can I ease, the pain that I may be feeling in my body? How can I just make this be a little bit easier on myself? And the answers will always come when you make space to hear them.
Yeah, I so wish I would have known what I know now when I ran my half marathon, and literally thought that was, one of the hardest things I have ever done. And I wanted so much to be that that girl that loved, I was running with all of my girlfriends, teacher friends, that we all committed to do this half marathon. And some of them found that running was like such a, yes, it was hard, it was challenging, but they found this like peace in it where it was like, they still to this day are running. And this was, well, my son was a little one. So, I mean, I would say this was like probably 13-ish years ago. I do not run anymore. I lost both of my big toenails from just training for running a marathon. But I love that idea. I wish I would have had that in my mind of like, how could I make this easier on myself? I did not know any of those tools when I was doing what I was doing. I learned, I definitely learned about myself. I learned about like that perseverance, that pushing through, but I definitely didn't do it with ease. And I think that that was the missing component. And I think that that is something that is, again, so important, and the sooner we can start teaching our kids this, oh my gosh, what a difference this can make. Because I say that to my daughter, I go, you are a lifetime ahead of me as far as the tools and strategies that at 22 that I had no idea of until I was in my 40s.
That's just it.
Yeah.
Imagine how light they're going to be feeling.
I know.
Because every time you look into that, every time you tap into the fear, the shame, the guilt, whatever it is that you're feeling as a teen or as a parent, and you start to release that, like you're shedding all of those layers and you're coming back home to who you actually truly are. And by challenging yourself and getting emotionally uncomfortable, like that is how you do it.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. I know you and I have connected and, definitely I have no doubt in my mind that we will be working together, as we move, down the road here, but I know that we've for sure connected on our shared passion for helping others. And I would, as a final question, just love to ask you, so it's kind of shifting into being a woman in our space. And what do you think is the most important for women like us to know when stepping into our purpose?
Ooh. I feel like for me, when I look back at like the 4 years and how I got here and how it all just happened organically.
Yeah.
I think if I could go back and speak to her, I would tell her that, again, coming back to this same theme around like ease and just letting things be easy. Mm-hmm. I feel like when I finally surrendered to the fact that there was something bigger at play here, that there is in fact something that has been guiding me all along. Like I am the vessel for that, but there is something that is co-creating with me in my life. And the more that I lean into that, and again, that comes back to creating the space, right? It's just, it's about creating the space for yourself to be able to hear like what it is that you need to do today in order to live on purpose. And that's just it for me. Like each and every day, like, I mean, I can definitely plan goals, like, months and years out. And I do this with my clients, but at the end of the day, when I think about it, it's like you have today and tomorrow's just black. If you don't really know if it's going to be there. Right. It's, again, rise to shine. It's such a beautiful thing that we should be grateful for when we get that next 24 hours and the sun is rising the next morning. So I'm just literally focusing on like today, what it is I need to do to live on purpose. And I know when I create the space to ask myself those questions, and this can literally look like 30 seconds when you're like alone, you have like a minute in your car or something. It doesn't have to be this big, elaborate, it's just blocking out the time and space on your calendar for you and really leaning into the desires and the feelings that you want to feel and asking yourself, like, how do I want to feel? And also setting intentions, I would say, as a final thought, like every single day, if I can remember to, which I mean, imperfect consistency is where we're at over here, but I try to set an intention for the day because I also have recognized over the last 4 years that my energy goes like where my focus is at, right?
Absolutely.
Or your focus goes where your energy flows, however they say that. But yeah, your energy will follow that intention. So focus your attention and your awareness on the things that you want to call into your life, and you will make magic happen if you take action towards that.
Oh my gosh, I am so grateful for you today. And I just want to say a huge thank you for joining us. It just feels like such an inspiring conversation. And I really can't wait to have women get to know you better and just to, for you to be connected to more teens. I just feel like that would be such a gift. So before we wrap up, can you tell us where to find you and where we can listen to your podcast, all of the things?
Yes, I would love to. So probably one of the places that I'm most active, it's my baby, my podcast. We just reached 100 episodes, over 100 now. So that was a really exciting milestone that I'm still celebrating as well. But yeah, definitely check out the podcast. Episode 102 is my full marathon story. And that was a really, really great episode. Like I loved recording that one. So if you're into stories, I would check that out for sure. Other than that, I'm pretty active on Instagram as well at Confident Teen Teacher. And all my links and everything are there and you'll be able to find me.
Awesome. And we'll, of course, have all of those in our show notes as well. And I just, again, amazing today. Thank you. Everything I had hoped for and more. And like I said, be on the lookout because I have a feeling that we will definitely be in each other's worlds for sure. And wrapping up to all of you ladies, I just want you to remember to keep rising, keep shining, and know that the best is yet to come. Bye, friends.
Thanks for joining me here today. Your presence means the world to me. If you enjoyed what you heard, please consider leaving a rating and review, and don't forget to follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode. Head to the show notes and let's connect. Rise to Shine Co. is ready to support you in coaching, collaboration, life tips, or even a coffee chat. Until next time, keep shining, my friends.